So with Xilonen's rerun coming up, I figured it'd be nice to maybe look at a specific part of what a lot of people are going to be summoning for, and how this 60% crit damage, it really isn't a lot. If I had to be entirely honest with you guys, this 60% crit damage, you may think that, oh man, it's going to be so good. All these cryo characters want as much possible crit damage as you can get. The only, I mean, she's not even on a full set right now. Basically, I mean, even MH for her probably is best. So we could sort of rule this crit damage as a 308% modifier when he does crit. So it's important to note that this is sort of what the formula looks like. You have your extra crit damage here, and then you have your base sort of multiplier there. That is technically the multiplier, and this is what you end up with. So if you were to do 1 damage, you do 3.68 damage. Come here and we can go ahead and do this, and we can see that the damage increase is about 20%. So that is what you would be expecting. Now, a big issue is that, you know, that 20% is going to seem a lot stronger than it actually is, because if I'm being entirely honest, my Wrisley, he's not like the standard build, right? Or he's pretty good, right? He's one of the top percent versions of Wrisley there is. But Wrisley as a cryo character actually has a pretty low crit damage, especially if you're looking at like a freeze team where a lot of characters would end up using Blizzard Strayer. We can go ahead and let's go ahead and look at Ayaka. So here we are with Ayaka here, you know, best Ayaka in the world. Now, listen, 266% crit damage. Is everyone going to have that? No. But is everyone also going to have 100% crit rate, over 100% crit rate? No, also, basically. I feel like this, I've seen Ayakas with 300% crit damage fairly often, you know? This is the best for consistency. However, you know, there are people who want to push Ayaka up to 300% crit damage. Back when Blizzard Strayer was still, like, you know, very used, and you would use Freeze Ayaka, 300% crit damage Ayakas were everywhere. Did they have the most crit rate? No, but they really didn't need to because they had Blizzard Strayer. If you are enjoying this video, feel free to subscribe because we're trying to get 10,000 before the end of the year. But all that said, if we go ahead and we do our, you know, formula again, now it's 16%. And I can show you guys what that at least looks like when you're playing the game. So here's my video where I used, you know, C0 Xilonen, right? This is C0 Xilonen, 129. You're seeing him do 57, 70, you know, 41. So you see all of that. Now we can go ahead and we can come back here. We can see 51, 76, you know, 44, 147. You know, let's go back a couple frames here. I mean, you guys gotta be able to see, like, the damage numbers themselves are not that insane. 60% crit damage is great, but don't get too ahead of yourselves that it's gonna monstrously buff older cryo characters. And I figured this would just be something I would make a video on because, you know, Xilonen is rerunning. People want and, like, will look at that 60% crit damage and be like, oh my god, it's insane, when in reality, it just isn't. Our other crit damage supports, like, you know, Farazan and other, you know, sort of, you know, scenarios, our other crit damage supports offer other things on top of their crit damage, exactly how Xilonen is doing for the cryo characters. So if you were to look at, you know, C0 Xilonen and replace her with someone else, yeah, sure, the numbers are going to go crazy from, like, maybe, I don't know, maybe it'll go to 100,000, and then this would be, you know, 147,000, and then it's like, oh my god, you just did, you know, 47% more damage. Like, that would be pretty insane. However, at C0, Xilonen, you know, is just able to provide a lot of buff, and there's not really a massive gain, right? It just, when you look at it on paper and you're like, oh my god, 60% crit damage, you would have thought this would do more. I'm gonna be honest, most people are gonna think that this is doing more. It's kind of a bad, yeah, there we can see the 129 there more. Like, I mean, what is this, 17 or no, all this is 18,000 damage extra onto the charge. That's not an insane amount, right? Like, that's just, it's not a crazy amount. I think my Wrisley might have a different build at this time. I don't exactly remember. I don't think I showed it. So his crit damage was 220. Yeah, so I traded the extra, a little bit of crit damage for more crit rate. I mean, but it's 220 there, right? So if I had 220 baseline, that would go ahead and make it to where it's 18%, which, you know, probably does fall in line with what we've seen here. And overall, I would have to say, yeah, this just is not something that I'm looking at and I'm like, oh man, it's insane, right? Like, it's insane when you look at the total damage increase, you know, because it will end up reflecting this 18% to 20% sort of damage ratio. But we do have to remember, Cryo characters constantly want the highest crit damage. Now, the new character that they're releasing after Xilonen's banner is going to be Cryo, so it's possible that she could be sort of, you know, made for this. Now, let's talk about, I guess we can sort of do this as like a talking about C2 Xilonen, I guess, and I'll just like go in depth here. I guess we'll just cover everything. Yeah, why not? So that was the Cryo section, right? So this Cryo damage, crit damage, like I said, just, it's not a huge amount, and I wouldn't, you know, I would personally, if you're a Cryo main, think it over, because it really isn't an insane amount. Now let's talk about Pyro, and Pyro is a bit tricky because, well, Pyro has the highest base attack character in the game, and if you have C2 of the Pyro character, who has the highest base attack in the game, she then gains more base attack, meaning she's going to be at almost 1,300 base attack. Let's go back to Desmos. That's an extra 585 attack. I think it's actually just 299. I don't know how they do their math, because every like calculator site you'll see has Mavwika at 1,300 attack when she uses her C2, but I don't know. I don't know why it stops at like 1,099. I don't get it. Yeah, you can see basically 585 attack, basically. It's very, very strong, and I think people do underrate this, because, I mean, this is over almost, well, it's almost half of a Bennett buff, right? Just for, and you have the red shred and the damage bonus, by the way. And that's really where Xilonen strives. When she's able to provide the damage bonus, the red shred, and the baseline damage increases on, you know, these sort of other multipliers, which this is what all of this is. It's an extra damage increase from every single level. So all of these buffs that she's giving your characters, they're hitting on every single level and just multiplying into themselves. So every single one of these buffs, I think, except, well, damage bonus here, obviously, with Geo. Every single one of these buffs kind of do that, because realistically, the restore 25 energy, honestly, I thought it was 15. Honestly, the 25 Electro regen is actually pretty nice, because a character like Verissa, who, it's a little theory of mine that, you know, Xilonens C2 may or may not be made just to be like a Natlan support C2. I think every single Natlan character that can work with this C2 is kind of being buffed in a way that it's like, wow, they're the best of it, because, I mean, look at Mulani. She's Hydro, she scales with HP, 45% HP. Pyro, 45% attack. Oh, coincidentally, the newest, strongest Pyro DPS has the highest base attack. Oh, you know, like, it's a little... I wonder if Mulani has a higher... Oh, I wonder. Hold on. I've not looked at Mulani's base HP, because I don't have the character. But she has 15,185. All right. I think Fiorina or Nevi had the previous highest. She is almost 100. She's like 120 off of Fiorina. So Mulani having the second highest base HP, assuming that Fiorina or Nevi had the highest, right? That's pretty insane, because she has a higher base HP than Nevi, right? So this 45% HP is going to give her an even bigger buff than it will give Nevi, right? So it's just a personal theory of mine that it's like, these kind of seem like they're meant to be used with these characters. And then obviously, I shouldn't, you know, leave out Eon-san, who, you know, if you're able to just purposefully stack more and more and more attack onto this character, she becomes way more useful. Well, I wouldn't say way more useful, but she becomes less restrictive, and if you're gonna have that, you know, C2 Xilonen, she can go ahead and she can give you 25 extra energy, allow you to stack more attack, which allows you to, instead of taking Engulfing Lightning, you could, you know, I don't know, go Staff of Homa. I don't know if it gives you a higher base attack or something. I'm assuming it would. We can actually kind of see that here. Hold on, let's check. So 2,884, right? If we do give her the Staff of Homa, what does it go to? Okay, so it does give worse attack. All right. I mean, if she's below 50% HP, it'd give her more, but it does give her worse attack. C2 Xilonen certainly seems very strong. You know, I have found the new Natlan characters with their, you know, 25 energy. It's been useful, right? With Verissa and then also with Eon-san, it's been useful to have this with the new Electro characters. But beyond that, before that, no, I don't find use in this basically at all. Maybe Chloride, you know, but Chloride wants to be run with Chevy, so that's not really what you want to do because you don't want Xilonen there. And you also don't want Xilonen on Verissa's team, but she's a okay replacement for Chevy, honestly, on the Verissa team. If we did get some sort of actual proper Electro buff here, like, you know, maybe, I don't know, 60% damage bonus, why not? If we did get that, then we would probably see, you know, Xilonen be better than Chevy, right? Just because of the higher damage bonus. I guess it depends how much attack percent you're getting and other stuff, but yeah, other than the new Natlan Electro characters, this isn't really useful. You know, Electro hasn't really needed 25 energy, you know, and their cooldowns don't need decreasing. The cooldown decrease isn't even like something I noticed either, right? So I touched a little bit on the Hydro, but yeah, basically the high base HP scaling Hydro characters. Wow, would you look at that? Nevi at 14,000 HP. Furina at 15,307 HP. I mean, that's, you know, something. Here, we can actually go see how much HP we get. Okay, so here we are. We have 35,000 HP on Furina, 31,000 HP on Xilonens, and 42,000, 43,000 HP on Nevi. Let's go ahead and see what happens when we activate that. Now, that 35,000 turns into 42,000, and Xilonens goes to 37,000, and Nevi goes to 49,000. So yeah, you guys can see it's a pretty big buff, and she is the only character in the game, well, I should say the only like proper support character that you would want to run like this. I guess Xilonens plus Furina. So Xilonens is the second one. From my knowledge, those are the only two. Xilonens with her constellations, I think it's her C4. She can actually buff HP percent. Yeah, increases 10% per enemy attached to. It's kind of conditional. It's not really that great. Whereas Xilonens, she's just giving you 45% HP, which is just insane when you go ahead and look at all this stuff. I mean, it's just, it really did. Just like the amount of HP we got. It's definitely an over, like, hold on. If we just look, let me go ahead. We hit 49,000 with Nevi, right? And 42,000 with Furina. So I think it's safe to assume that we got around 7,000. So let me go ahead. Let's see what we're looking at in terms of that. So this should be a sort of very simple way of seeing the damage increase purely from that. I do have the video, but I'm going to be honest, I don't want to reference the video the entire time. So let's just go ahead. So assuming it is a 7,000, you know, flat buff, it's 16% overall damage increase. You know, it's good. Just flat out, it's just good, you know, and that should be how that works. And I mean, it is basically every single Hydro character at this point that scales off of max HP. One thing we can mention is that the only stat that I think we can look at is Cryo and Geo. Those will kind of stay the same. Like, there will always be Geo characters who want Geo damage. I guess, or no, it's Geo damage dealt. So it technically is just all damage type boost, sort of how Furina has it, where she just increases Geo's overall damage percent. So I think we've already talked about Pyro. I don't think there's really much else I can go off of. I mean, other than that, you know, there's one specific character who doesn't necessarily want that extra, you know, 45% attack a lot. However, she wants the extra HP for her team. It's a little weird. 715, you know, base attack. Hu Tao, not that great for it. But, you know, basically every other Pyro DPS is coming in onto 1,000 base attack. But the last thing we can talk about is Geo, which I guess I kind of touched on there. Basically, every single damage given, like, it's just simply, like, even Ito's physical damage would be buffed by 50%. Now, not a lot, considering, well, I guess it's a lot for his physical attacks, right? You don't do physical attacks with Ito. But, like, let's look at this 46%, right? You have 46%. Mavwika would give him another 40%. Then, you know, you have Scroll Set, which on Xilonen would give you another 40%. So now you're already looking at 120%, right? It's not really, you're already stacking so much damage bonus. It's good, it certainly is good. And also, if you're running Fiorina, you could have upwards of like 60, percent to 100%, right? Generally on her team, right? So I mean, at that point, you're at 200% damage bonus. So 50% really would be like a 20%, 25% increase, which not bad. But, there is also something worthy of note, like Navia is the only other Geo DPS, right? I mean, Xilonen is also a Geo DPS kind of, but Navia is the only one worthy of note. I've not personally tested her, with and without C2 Xilonen, but I have tested with Ito. It should be a decent increase overall. It depends how much damage bonus you're actually putting onto the character. If you have no other source of damage bonus, right, on your team, you have literally none. Let's say you're running like Fischl or something, right? You're a really weird team. You get 50% on top of that. You'll have, 40% from Scroll, from, Xilonen. And then you get 50% on top of 80%. That's going to be a very strong uplift in your damage, right? It depends how much damage bonus you're feeding into your characters. However, nowadays, like I said, Fiorina's on there. You got, Mavuika who's giving 40%. There is a lot of damage bonus going around nowadays because they've just flooded it, right? It's not as impactful, but it is very, very strong. It's sort of the same issue with the crit damage. It's very strong, but it depends when it's very strong. But I would honestly, you could give the edge to the Geo damage, damage dealt, because you could easily have like a 3 times modifier of crit damage, right? So you could easily have over 200% crit damage, because that's basically what damage bonus is extra damage added onto your sort of thing, right? So if you have 100% damage bonus, you'll do double the damage. It's sort of, damage bonus is literally just a secondary, crit stat, I would say. Honestly, it's just a second phase of the crit, basically. Also, there's flat buffs that can happen, like Yunjin and stuff, that, do get affected by crit damage and damage bonus. But, yeah, C2 Xilonen, those are really what it does, where it's going to be sort of strong, where it's not going to be strong. Honestly, I feel like the Hydro and Pyro characters really, because they were already good to start with, and then they got these buffs. Whereas you're looking at the Cryo characters, you're looking at the Geo characters, you're looking at the Electro characters, they're not really good, right? Like, they're just not. Like, so all those elements were not really looking good. But now, C2 Xilonen, she does, like, and you can clearly tell because they give 60% crit damage, 50% damage bonus. They did care. We'll see what Miss Coffee is, but I imagine, certain things about this video may be important to Miss Coffee, because, I mean, C2 Xilonen, obviously, the 60% crit damage is going to be there for Miss Coffee. C2 Xilonen would be able to provide that, so we'll see how she looks when she gets in game. Just wanted to make this video because Xilonen's banner was coming up. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.